I'm going to call to order at 9:30, March 19th, CCS Acquisition Technical Group meeting. Uh, so First thing is the approval of, no, I'm sorry, let me change that. Addition to anything for the agenda today. Is there any addition that I need to put? Okay, if there's no addition, we'll move on to the next, the approval of September 2024 minutes. Is there any revision or addition to the meeting minutes? Okay, if there's none, I'd like to call for a motion then to approve the minutes. Put it in the chat, or if your mic's not working.
I motion to approve the minutes.
I'm sorry, who was that?
Cassie.
Okay, and I need a second motion for that. I got Brenda from ELA, second. Okay, moving on, officers report. I don't have anything. Sandy, do you have anything?
No, I don't have anything either. Thank you.
Thanks. How about you, Deb?
Nothing here.
Okay, thank you. Okay, so moving on to CCS report, I'll hand it over to Rachel.
Good morning, everyone. So the full text of my staff report is in the packet, minus some new things that I would like to add from the conference I recently attended. So today I'm going to summarize it and take any questions. So the Polaris 7.7 update was completed in February. This update adds subfund management and ASN receiving, but it does not have a hierarchical view of the funds the way the client does yet. EDI processing is still missing from the client, specifically the button for processing EDI invoices is missing. So this is still only in the client. Invoices for ASN shipments do get processed overnight if you don't use that button, but feel free to continue to use the client for ASN shipments until that button is added, because I know you want to process your invoices quickly. CCS staff are still in the process of updating training documentation. In the meantime, there's a link in the packet to the webinar on the 7.7 update. I will be scheduling acquisitions in LEAP training soon for about the last week of April or the first week of May, as well as an additional short webinar on the new API workflow. I will be covering all of the workflows available in LEAP during this session, so it might be split into more than one webinar or in-person training session. In case you didn't read the newsletter, there is a change that has been made to the staff client access in March. I believe that was March 17th or 18th. This requires the staff client's access to be restricted to IP addresses only. So CCS previously gathered library IP addresses and have reached out to IT staff to confirm those IP addresses are still correct. So if you have any problems, please contact IT at your library so that they can contact the help desk about the issue. It's also time to nominate new officers for the next fiscal year. Deb Kissinger from Grays Lake will be next year's chair. Please consider nominating yourself for the vice chair / chair-elect position or secretary. I'll send another reminder in May. We do have a question from Cassie in the chat. The IP address is for the client use only. Yes, it is for the client. It does not affect the access to LEAP. So this would basically be limited to the IP addresses at your library. If you occasionally work from home, you'll still be able to have access to LEAP from home. I have two updates from Baker and Taylor from the conference I attended last week. So I attended the Innovative User Group conference. At the conference, I spoke with Baker and Taylor about the delayed shipments from Hachette and attended a session on the new API ordering workflow. Regarding the delayed shipments from Hachette, I spoke with Travis Kelly. He's the manager of strategic development for BTCat and CLS, so he's more cataloging focused. However, he informed me that they do have a new contract with Hachette that will allow them to ship orders 7 to 9 days before a title is released. However, they really are only focusing on those new titles right now. So he actually recommended that if you have any Hachette orders that you haven't received yet that are older than 3 months, to cancel those and try to find those from another vendor if you can. If you can't find those from another vendor, feel free to not cancel those and see if you can wait for that title to come from Baker and Taylor. But he said that they truly are only focusing right now on shipping out new titles and not the older ones that you haven't received yet. If you are concerned about any other delays besides Hachette, he said that you can contact Kurt Leppert to do an audit of those orders to see if he can pinpoint why you haven't received it. If Kurt cannot do that or doesn't respond, he gave me the name of a vice president to contact to help with that audit. So please contact me for that information. If you would like the name of the vice president, I'm trying to get contact information for you and don't have it yet. If you have any questions about this, please do let me know, and I can forward them to Travis. I also attended a session on the new API workflow. So Innovative announced that they've finished beta testing of it, and it's ready for general release. They have fixed some issues that they previously had during beta testing on deduplication. So this is a really interesting workflow. It's more efficient than EDI, and is one that might be a natural transition for you if you haven't been using EDI and have just been ordering from TitleSource 360. So this would allow you to place your orders still in TitleSource 360, but you do have to set up the 970 grid. And I'll go more into that in a separate webinar on it. However, there still is one glitch that's not going to be fixed until version 7.8. That's going to be released some point in the summer. I'm not sure when we'll be deciding to update production for that. It might not be till sometime later on, depending on testing. So it would be possibly as early as August, but we'll decide that later because it hasn't been released yet, so we haven't updated training yet on it. So this bug is that's still in the API prevents titles from appearing in reports such as the outstanding orders report, which I know you like to use towards the end of your fiscal year. There is a workaround for it, but I do need to discuss this with Rebecca and the other CCS staff to see if we want to implement this workaround before the version 7.8 update, because this can affect the jobs that are run automatically overnight. And we would have to monitor it to see how it affects Polaris in the morning if we implement this workaround. So I do plan to schedule a separate webinar to review the workflow, compare it to the EDI workflow, discuss the steps for implementing it, and the benefits of it. So some of the benefits of it do include not needing to lock records, so you won't have a problem with locked records. Because the 970 will be added automatically regardless of whether it's locked or not. It improves deduplication, so it won't be saving an extra record as a provisional record. And I've also heard potentially that it could be a good workflow for multi-volume set records, but they haven't tested it yet. They just theorized on how it would work. So it's something that we may want to do and test ourselves before using it for multi-volume orders, or have one of the libraries, test it.
Rachel, got a question. The
Yes.
API is you're talking about with the vendor and triple I, correct? It's like it's a setup similar to EDI. Am I correct?
Yes, so it's more efficient than EDI. The difference between EDI and API is that API is a direct communication between Title Source 360 and Polaris. It doesn't require like a separate FTP site. The way the EDI is set up, you can see in the supplier record where there's like information for a URL for an FTP site. So it doesn't require that to communicate with Polaris anymore. So do you have some questions in the chat? One is it only Baker and Taylor? Right now it is only Baker and Taylor. Innovative is in communication with Ingram and Midwest Tape to create this, but they haven't started the process yet. Is there any other questions about the new API workflow? We do not have any information about other vendors yet. Innovative is still working on those plans with those vendors and hasn't provided information on when they will develop it with the vendors. So it should probably take a bit longer because they still need to develop it on the vendor side besides Baker and Taylor before that's available. So they will be working with Ingram and Midwest Tape eventually. So there are still a lot of workflows to choose from for Polaris. Are there any other questions? Okay, so the next thing on my report is the CCS staff news. So Deborah has now taken maternity leave as of yesterday. So Rebecca will be stepping in to take on her role as well as her regular duties as executive director. And I'd also like to introduce our new member services associate, Molly Mansfield, and she can now introduce herself.
Hi, good morning. Thanks for having me. It's nice to meet everybody. As Rachel said, I'm the new member services associate. I've been a librarian for almost 20 years, and I've worked in public and academic libraries and just about every department in libraries. And I'm really excited to be here. And if you have any questions or need to contact me, please go ahead and reach out. And yeah, thanks for having me today.
Are there any questions on my staff reports?
Rachel,
Yes.
when you're talking about the difference in how API handles deduplication so that we won't be saving provisional records anymore, do you know how that would treat if we order something that would match with a multi-volume record?
Not yet. They haven't actually tested that yet. But as an example of what happens in general when they deduplicate is that if it sees a duplicate, it will add the information to that duplicate record. If there's more than one duplicate already in the system, it will choose the first one from using the earliest bib control number. So it will look at all of the control numbers and identify the lowest control number that's a duplicate and add it. So I would assume that it will be using like ISBN as a match point and could handle looking for a specific ISBN and add that. So add that 970 to the record in that same way that it would for any duplication process. So if there's, for example, like one title that has not been added to the multi-volume set record yet, but was created earlier and is just for that one volume, it would potentially add that if that's the earliest number to that specific volume. If the ISBN is already in a multi-volume set record and that was created first, it would then choose the multi-volume set record if it's the lowest number. So there could be potential problems with that, but if staff regularly deduplicate their multi-volume set record orders that are not using API at the time it is ordered, then that could function properly and add the 970 to the multi-volume set record. However, this is just hypothetical right now. They haven't actually tested how it works.
Because what I'm curious about is that when we do EDI ordering, we have to create those provisional records and create duplicate records to actually order the right item. And I want to make sure that if we're having a more streamlined process where it doesn't do that, I'm ordering the latest volume, and yet what's going to pick up in the order is an earlier that we already have. Because that's exactly what we had when we initially started EDI ordering with it.
Since this hasn't been tested, I don't know exactly how it's going to function. If a library is comfortable signing up for it, we could do some additional testing just with that one library first before we recommend everyone else signing up for it. But again, there is this one glitch that prevents the titles from appearing in the outstanding orders report. So I do want to discuss this with the other CCS staff to see if we want to implement a workaround before the 7.8 upgrade. But in the meantime, I will have more information in a webinar about it so that you can learn more about all of the details of how this functions.
So Rachel, they would merge then the records? Is that what it is to avoid duplication?
Yes, it will. It will merge the records coming from API with an existing record by looking at the lowest number bib control number to choose the one with the lowest number.
If I could just chime in there, the problem with multi-volume, like graphic novels, which has multi-volume in it, and then like if someone orders the newest volume, I've seen a lot of like duplicate records, especially for multi-volume record. It might not that new volume record or that new volume might not necessarily be in the original, like with the rest of the multi-volume record. So someone will still need to go in and deduplication that.
Right.
So
right, I would recommend that all acquisition staff get in the habit of deduplicating multi-volume sets with the multi-volume set record as right after the order is placed.
right.
So
Oh, sorry. So when, you like save the provisional record and then send the order, as soon as the order is sent, you can then do the deduplication. You don't have to wait for like invoicing and all of that.
Are you talking about the EDI workflow?
EDI, yeah. Like as soon as the EDI order is sent, then you can do the deduplication immediately.
Yes.
Okay,
Yes, you can do deduplication immediately after you send your EDI order.
great. Thank you.
Just to also clarify, especially with graphic novels, that you can deduplicate, but you have to make sure that the O2O, the ISBN is actually added to the original
Yeah.
and the record. And then also I do see a lot of like item records don't have the volume number in there too. In the is it suffix, prefix? One of those. Yeah, where you put the volume. So just beware of having those two things are important, especially if there's holes on those multi-volume. Okay.
Yes. I do think it's a good habit to get in the process of adding your volumes to the volume field in the item records, but I did have that on my agenda, and I'll come back to that a bit later. We do have some questions that are in the chat. I see that Karen had one for McHenry, and Cassie responded to that. Cassie asks, are catalogers being informed about this as well? I will inform catalogers about this and explain the workflow and make sure they are reminded about deduplicating multi-volume set records at the next CAM meeting. I just learned about this last week, so I haven't had a chance to even review all of my notes from the conference. But I will be doing that soon and will inform the catalogers. Are there any other questions? Okay, great. I think the next thing on the agenda are some polls that I have. Okay, so the first poll, I will be sharing the poll in a second, is are you interested in changing the meeting time for the acquisitions technical group to 10 a.m. for the next fiscal year? CAM has already decided to do so themselves. So I'm going to launch the poll. And feel free to make your selection in the poll. I'll keep it up for until it looks like everyone has responded. All right, I'm going to end the poll. It looks like 48% said yes and 38% said no opinion. So it looks like we can go ahead and change our start time next year to 10 a.m. All right, 1 second. I have one more poll. My next poll is if we have in-person training at the CCS office on acquisitions in LEAP, would you be interested in attending? So this would include extra in-person activities, so that we can do them together. It would be a bit longer than a webinar because during the webinar, there's so many workflows that we would need to cover that it wouldn't be as interactive. Karen asked if it would be a group or one-to-one. It would be a group in the CCS office. So we'd either, if we have enough people, we'd be using the fishbowl like we did for in-process meetings. If not enough people have registered for it, we'll be doing it in our meeting space in the CCS office. Kathy asked if attendees would be able to do the exercises. Yes, during the in-person meeting or training, the attendees will be given time to do exercises, and we'll discuss it as we go through the exercises. Okay, I'm going to stop the poll now. It looks like 17 are interested in in-person training. So I think in order to accommodate everyone's schedules, I will send out another quiz or not another quiz, another poll to gauge what are the best dates and times for it. So we may end up doing a long session for just to have one in-person session, but then have separate shorter webinars to split it up a bit because it takes a long time to go through all of the workflows in LEAP. So it looks like the next thing on our agenda are some discussions. The first one was brought to my attention by a cataloger. So they were wondering if it does fit into your workflow to add the volume to the item records in the volume field when you order it. And if this is something that you would possibly be able to do if you're not already doing it so that patrons can see the volume in the pack. So feel free to share your opinions or unmute yourself. Cassie asked if they mean the bib record. They mean the item record, the volume field in the item record.
I'm already adding volumes, especially for graphic novel. Like I said, that's important, especially when it comes to holds. But for like DVDs and stuff, I do not because of the fact that there's potential when we order a complete set that our cataloger like separates it. So I do not do it for AV.
That makes sense.
Yeah, I think it's reasonable to do for graphic novels for sure. We're ordering them in a separate cart anyway, so we can just add it to our workflow for that after a cart like that is ordered to go through and make sure to add volumes on all the on order item records.
It's great. Is anyone against doing it and just waiting for the catalogers to do it? We do have a question. Do you mean years for like National Geographics as well? Yes, Well, National Geographic is usually done by serials. I would think that that would be controlled by the serial holdings records in most cases, unless the libraries don't use serial holdings record. So you don't actually have to put any volumes into the item records for the serials. So this would just be for the multi-volume sets like graphic novel. So we do have some comments that catalogers do it at some of the libraries. And Cassie asks, since they use CCS, when the item arrives, the information gets updated. Would we still need to do that? It would be beneficial to do that, but unless you want to pass a motion to require it, I don't think it would be required. So I would say that it would be a good practice to do it. And if anyone is interested in passing a motion to require acquisitions to do that, that's your decision. Because right now, the only required information that we have for acquisitions is the policy for the on order record for the bibliographic record.
Are you saying a motion for to put volume numbers? Is that what you're asking, Rachel?
Yes, to put volume numbers in the item records, but this is your decision to make, not mine.
I think that it's a good best practice, but I don't think that it should be required.
Okay.
Well,
Um,
the reason I think it should be required, because especially in graphic novels, if they're if your patron puts it on hold and there's no volume number out there, there's a potential that they will get the wrong hold. So they could if they potentially want a volume 28 and you don't have an item on your item record, there's no volume number, they could potentially just get a different volume.
For those, wouldn't they be placing, don't they place a hold for a specific volume and then so if you didn't put it in at the acquisitions point, at the cataloging point, you will put it in. And then by the time it's available to fulfill a hold, it would have the correct suffix, right?
There it I have to think about that. So yes and no. If another library, if it's a new book, potentially another library that lends out their new book, your patron will probably get that volume 28 if that library has no holds within their patron pool. But putting it after the fact does not give your patron the potential right hold. No, just because you put it into the right bit records and there's no volume field in that item record, your patron will most likely will not get that book after a cataloger puts in the volume field. Because this has happened prior to we've had this discussion about maybe a year or two, if you correct me, Rachel, where there was a lot of like multi-bit records on a graphic novels because it wasn't merged and because a volume was not inputted into the like I'm just gonna pick a random library. I'm gonna pick us Palatine, okay? We didn't merge our record like One Piece, the newest volume, 120. We created a separate bit record and just left it out there. And on the item record, there was no volume field. And then when we receive that volume 120, our cataloger then merged it into the multi-record and there was holds, that patron will not get that book after we merge it and putting the volume field. It has to be done prior to the merge, and the volume field has to be in it. Does that make sense for me?
I think so.
So, when a patron is looking at the pack, if they place a hold on something that's a multi-volume set, the pack will then ask them to choose a specific volume. If there's no volume on it because it's still on order, they'll potentially see other records that have volumes if they select the link to see at something that's at another library, and they can place a hold on it if the library allows it to be placed by a patron from a different library by seeing the volume from a different library. So potentially they can still place the hold on the correct volume as long as they can see that the volume is there.
I think what was the issue that was brought up a few years ago was that, like, for example, if Prospect Heights, that's where you're from, right, Nora? So let's just say you're the only one that ordered the volume 120 and it wasn't merged into the multi-volume record. And then your patron puts a hold on your record with that volume 120 only. And then when you finally merge it, when your cataloger finally merge it into that multi-volume record, your patron that was on hold in your bit record only will potentially not get that hold.
I see. So what if I'm understanding correctly, which I might not be, what I actually think would make sense to require is requiring deduplication of multi-volume orders and suggesting that you put in your volume. Although if you're already in there, you may as well do both.
I think a lot of the other libraries also, the acquisition themselves are not allowed to touch bit records. Correct me if I'm wrong, but that's what I've
Like even for
heard.
deduplication?
Yes.
Ah,
So that's the reason why I'm suggesting putting it
got it.
volume in the
Got
item
it.
record because again, some acquisitions are not allowed to touch bit records.
Okay, well, in that case, I agree with you.
At the very least, we should be requiring that the volume numbers are put in before we deduplicate. Because when I've gone through and done some deduplication, it can be hard enough for me to tell what volumes of mine I have, let alone if I'm merging anyone else's into the multi-volume just to clean up the database. And at that point, if I'm understanding what Lei was saying, if my patron has a hold on my volume 34, when I put that volume number in, the hold then matches to volume 34 when I move everything to the multi-volume. Was that what I was hearing, Lei?
Yes. I'm sorry, I was just reading the chat, but you are correct.
So a lot of the problems with transferring holds from single volume records to multi-volume set records is that the holds are then placed on the bib record and not the specific volume without the volume information. So in order to do that, you would need to place the hold manually on the multi-volume set record, so it allows you to select a specific volume. And if there's no volume in the item record, you may not be able to tell which volume it needs to be placed on when you move the holds manually.
If there
maybe
is a multi-volume record and some of the volumes, perhaps on order ones, have no suffix with that information, when a patron wants to place a hold, can they select the like no suffix version, or are they forced to select one that has a suffix?
The suffix is not part of the holds requirements. It's the volume field
Well,
that it
sorry, I
matches on.
misspoke. Yeah.
So if there is no volume, they can select it, but I think they can potentially select it, but I'd have to test it. Because I know there were some changes recently with version 7.5 on the hold setting that affected serials records, but I know it also affected multi-volume set records, so I'll have to test that to see what happens.
It seems like based on what you're saying about like hold behavior on single volume moving to multi-volume, that for, you know, good patron service, either the volumes, the single and multi need to be merged before there's any holds on the single, which would be like right when you place it, or the holds need to be replaced manually. And so to me, as I am also a cataloger, I would rather just do it right away. But if it's a permissions issue at libraries, I still think that perhaps for those orders, it needs to be kicked to the cataloger to merge them right away, unless they feel like replacing all the holds manually and making sure that that's part of their workflow.
Well, I I would like to make a motion then to have this like probably discuss at the next in-person meeting, because then we get a better sense of acquisition workflow, I guess, to see who actually is able to put the item records or not. So Sandy, since you'll be the next chair, if you could just put it on our next agenda in our September meeting, then to see if we can make a motion to put, yeah, for graphic novels, volume field. So then they'll give us a chance then for anyone that's in this meeting to see if it works into your workflow, to test it out to see if it's better or works better, and again, better understanding. Okay, does that sound good?
I thought she said Sandy. Yeah. Hi, is Deb the next
And,
chair? Deb, is Deb the next chair for?
yes, Deb's the next year.
Oh, Deb, I'm sorry. Is it Deb?
Thank you.
I apologize. Sorry.
Yeah, thank you. What we do, when I do a multi-volume, sometimes I even, when I'm ordering, you know, sometimes I have to actually enter the ISBN in the bib record, on a multi-volume, graphic novel. And then on the item, I put, you know, like the volume number, because we've been stressed as well that if that is not, if that information isn't in there, again, just to clarify, the patron doesn't know, you know, isn't able to place the hold on that item. So I do feel like it is important to require that, even if you put the volume number on your item when you're ordering it, you know, just to let patrons, it's better for the patron is from what I understand. So, like Lay said, maybe we can discuss it again in September, but just letting you know that's what we do here is we want to be as specific about that as possible. So thank you.
Okay, so in the meantime, before the next meeting, I'm going to send out information to you from the Catalogers Wiki, so that you can read through it on deduplication and volumes. I think the CAM meeting should be scheduled before the acquisitions meeting as usual. I think I'll have to check their schedule. But I will, if it is before that acquisitions meeting, I can bring it up with the catalogers and see if they have an opinion. Otherwise, the scrap meeting would be first, but I'll look at the schedule later. So I think we can move on from that topic and talk about it at the next meeting. So the next discussion topic was submitted via the form. It's how do you decide to set up your PO number? Is it by category, selection, vendor, or date? Is there a reason why you do it this way? And does it help you identify or just keep track of things better?
I'll start. Um, so my PO starts with our fund code because that's how I keep track of what's being ordered as far as like is it nonfiction, fictions, or adult fiction mystery or something like that. So I use like I, I have a spreadsheet that I use to keep a running number of my POs, but usually the prefix will determine will tell me if it's adult fictions or adult nonfiction or juvenile fiction, nonfiction, things like that. But I use our fund code. Like for example, I have a fund code like AWL, which tells me it's adult world language, and then I have a number after that. So that's how I do my PO.
Lay, is the number after your fund code the date or just like a running number that goes up, or how do you do the number?
It's a running number like up and up. Like for example, I'm at uh today I'm at like 30102. So my next order will be 30103. So far. So regardless if it's an Amazon order, um an Etsy order or whatever vendor that I'm ordering from, it just a working it goes up by one digit.
And do you use like, because Polaris pops one in automatically, do you just type in your thing before whatever number Polaris does so that you know that it's sequential, or are you somehow keeping track otherwise?
I delete Polaris number and I input
Okay.
our own.
You just know what number you're at?
Yeah, I keep a spreadsheet of it.
Okay.
I use the spreadsheet because of the fact that I can also put notes in there, like what's the order for, or like I also order like program books that doesn't go into our book budget because I keep track of budgets also, and so sometimes I have to order like uh, a youth program copies, and so I still use a PO number, but I put a note in there letting me know not to take it out of our book budget.
And then do you make any change at the fiscal year, or do you just still keep counting up as usual?
I'm sorry, repeat that question for me.
Oh, do you make any change with the new fiscal year, or is it just a continuation?
No, most fiscal year, if I do add new funds or take away new old funds as well. so just for anyone that's for the 2 new library that just got added, especially at the end of the fiscal year, if you do use the acquisition module, if you're not going to use that, I learned this when the first year that we started on CCS, that if that fund is going to get not used again for the next fiscal year, make sure you disencumber the fund and move it to a new fund or wherever, but so that it doesn't follow into the next fiscal year.
There are a number of different examples of PO numbers and how they create them in the chat. I'm not going to go through them all, but if you're interested in the topic, feel free to read all about the different PO number combinations that everyone is using. And I will be sending out a link to the chat file with the video. And the next thing on the agenda is Lay's question. Lay, do you want to discuss the topic next?
Yeah, so this will be a potential motion. But the reason I'm bringing this up is a lot of you know the studios are kind of like moving away from just printing, I'm going to call it printing, or making just the Blu-ray format. Instead, they're combining 4K with the Blu-ray format. So you can't just order a Blu-ray. You have to order their 4K plus which includes a Blu-ray. So here at Palatine, we separate our 4K from our Blu-ray, and then in the preliminary records, sometimes it's hard to distinguish between a 4K or a Blu-ray format. I'm sure most of you have seen it. So what I like for us to start doing, especially in preliminary record, is possibly potential, like how we do video games that we'll put like in brackets, PS5 or Switch and all that. So I kind of want to do that in the preliminary records for 4Ks and Blu-rays. And then also, I guess it's the 4K Blu-ray and the 4K combo. DVD, pretty much we don't have to, because you could tell right away it's the format, it's DVD. But the only confusion is 4K Blu-ray and the 4K combo, because in the material type, it just comes out as Blu-ray. And then just also because we also to be cautioned because of this happening in studio publication world, the when they might first say they'll publish a Blu-ray and then decide that they only want to do a Blu-ray format with the 4K only. So when when we do our monthly cancellation, I caution us in like making sure that there will not be any Blu-ray format cancellation. Otherwise, we might accidentally cancel the wholes, and so I guess like double check to make sure there's really no Blu-ray format being canceled. So that's the only thing. So
We do have a question in the chat. Cassie asked, does everyone order Blu-ray and how popular are they?
I would say the Blu-ray format is still popular. As of right now, we do have a lot of holes on Blu-ray. It's not as much as 4K. I can give you an example, like in this previous month, like, or I'm not sure if it came out yet, but Gladiator 2 is one of the format. Like there's no Blu-ray format standalone order. You can only order 4K and with the 4K order, you get the Blu-ray. But we have a lot of holes, so for us as the library itself, we have to decide, like, do we really want to order 20 copies of 4K just to fulfill the Blu-ray holes? So that is something potentially that most library will have to decide on, especially, you know, uh, with the Blu-ray. So
Looks like
And
we've got a lot of comments coming in on the popularity of Blu-ray and DVD and what is ordered at the libraries. So I'm not going to review all of those comments right now. So does anyone have any questions on this topic? I'm going to go ahead and read the background on this vote because it's a potential motion. So at the September 20th, 2023 meeting, Rebecca confirmed that the acquisition technical group could pass motions on the local practices for the on-order bibliographic records. At that meeting, the attendees passed a similar motion as we're discussing today for the video game preliminary data records, adding the video game platform to the end of the title and terms matching those found in the catalogers wiki in the 753 subfield A. And this motion allowed the acquisition staff to be able to identify the different video game formats so you could receive the correct ones. So in the packet, I did include an example of how it would look like, I think. Yes, in the packet, I included an example of Lilo and Stitch 2 movie collection in capital letters with Blu-ray in the parentheses.
okay, with that, can I then make a motion for us as the acquisition group to put 4K Blu-ray or a 4K combo on the preliminary record on the 245 tag field?
I have a question before we move to motioning.
Okay.
If we're looking specifically to identify 4K and 4K combo packs from Blu-rays, would it be necessary to also tag the Blu-ray orders versus just 4K and 4K combo?
No, you're right, Kathy. We don't have to do the Blu-ray, just like we don't have to do the DVD, because in the material type or the format on the bit record does show it. So yeah, it's more of for the 4K and the 4K combo. But here's another thing, because there's still potential for Blu-ray combo. I don't know how many people actually keep their Blu-ray and DVD together, because we don't. We actually separate, because you could buy a Blu-ray combo, right? So a Blu-ray and a DVD, but we separate it. So does anybody want? Okay, so I guess the potential motion is for 4K, 4K combo, and a Blu-ray combo. Would that
I think
sounds better?
I think Blu-ray combo is confusing because it could be a DVD Blu-ray combo or a Blu-ray 4K Blu-ray combo. So I think we have to make sure we're clear which combo is being referred to.
So in the bracket, it'll be 4K and then or a what was it? A 4K combo, meaning you'll leave the 4K and the Blu-ray together. And the third would be a Blu-ray combo where you leave a Blu-ray and the DVD together. Does
Got
that
it.
make sense?
Yes.
So anybody else has any questions regarding this motions or?
There's a
I don't,
question.
oh, sorry. I don't know if I missed it. we don't collect 4K Blu-ray. When you search, does that show as a type of material? 4K Blu-ray? So if there's like a standalone 4K Blu-ray, would we be able to see it just from the type of material?
4K Blu-ray is not currently a type of material, but we will be able to create custom material types soon. It's part of a future release. I'm not sure when that will happen.
Yeah, because right now the type of material only shows Blu-ray or DVD, which is why
Yeah.
I was trying to make this motion so that in the bit record in the 245, we'll be able to see when we're ordering that it's actually in the correct bit record, whether it's going into a 4K or into a Blu-ray record.
Yeah. I like it. I'm just wondering, do we need to also have like not 4K combo, but just 4K as an option because
Mm-hmm.
like,
Yeah.
you know, yes, yeah.
Yes.
Okay.
Yeah. Like I said, it'll be 4K, 4K combo, and Blu-ray combo. Those were the three options that were potentially want to make a motion on to put in the 245 film. And Brenda, just to answer, because I just saw your question, should only be in the preliminary data record, just like how we do for video games. So if it's a final record, those brackets should be gone.
I think my point of hesitancy is I can understand labeling the 4K, but at this point in time, we are not specifically labeling Blu-ray combo packs versus DVD combo packs, any combo pack when it comes to on-order records. And I'm saying that because when we're ordering, if it's released as a combo pack, that's what they're preferring to order because then they split out the DVD and the Blu-ray, or at least that's what we're instructed to do. So they're basically getting two items for the cost of one. So it's like, are we then stepping back and then qualifying everything or just the 4K because we don't have another way of differentiating the fact that it's a unique creature from a Blu-ray?
I think there's like for us, we ordered the Blu-ray combo and we separate it, but there's other libraries that I believe keep the Blu-ray combo together. Not all libraries separates their Blu-ray and DVD.
We do have a question in the chat. Deb asked if this was for the 245 or the edition statement. So this is for the 245 field and it's only for PDRs. So catalogers would need to remove it when they create the final record.
So Kathy, if I'm answering your question incorrectly, correct me. But the reason I wanted to differentiate it is because in the type of material, the time record only shows it Blu-ray. And so sometimes when ordering is hard because I would need to double check that I'm actually putting it into the right bit record. And for a quicker reference, having the bracket with the 4K makes it easier for me to know that I'm actually putting it into the right record. Does that make sense?
It makes sense. And I'd be very willing to put a motion forward that we qualify the 4K and 4K combo with the understanding that if there's a 4K disc, no matter if it's 4K primary or Blu-ray primary, we're still calling it a 4K combo. I'm good with that, but the fact that then we're going to start going back and labeling Blu-ray combo packs or just the straight out Blu-ray rather than making the assumption that we're only qualifying the 4K. Does that make sense?
So you're saying that we don't need to do a Blu-ray combo?
Well, we've never done it, so so I guess I don't understand why we need to, because at least for us, receiving those hasn't been an issue. So I guess I don't understand why it's needed.
Um, I think the reason I'm bringing it up now is because of well, I have to think about that. I don't know. Does anybody have an opinion on that? Because I mean, I don't mind. Like right now, I'm more concerned with the 4K and the 4K combo than I am with the Blu-ray combo. So, but if someone thinks there's a potential like better to have a Blu-ray combo than or not, I don't know. Opinion?
We can't really say because we don't do what she's saying. So-
I'm okay with just doing the 4K or a 4K combo because I mean right now we don't order 4K. And like Kathy said, I haven't seen there's a problem, you know, with the Blu-ray and have you know because and then we do separate our combos. We do separate our Blu-ray and our DVD. We make them separate. So if we wanted to just label the 4K and the 4K combo, that to me makes sense. That's just my opinion. Thank you.
Okay, so then let's just make a motion to put a 4K and a 4K combo then, since there hasn't really been any issues with the Blu-ray combo and everyone seems to be aware that the Blu-ray combo, which has its own separate bib, because there'll be two Blu-ray so the bib record. So if a library that keeps their Blu-ray and their DVD together will have its own one bib, and then anybody with just the Blu-ray has the Blu-ray bib record. So that's fine. I'm okay with that. But right, like I said, I'm more concerned with the 4K and the 4K combo because of the way how the studios are releasing the formats nowadays. So
For libraries that use EDI and order Blu-ray DVD combo packs and separate them, what what do you do with your on order records? Do you just not create them from the PO and then manually add them to the DVD and Blu-ray?
Yeah, that was gonna be my question too, for libraries that order combos but separate them, how would that work?
I also ask because we just started on EDI and I need to place a combo order and I haven't because I haven't figured out what to do yet. So, Lei, do you use EDI at Palatine?
I do not use EDI
Oh,
or
okay.
no. So it's everything acquisition wise, it's a manual input with I use 970 grids with Midwest and Ingram. So I download, the 970 fields. So what I do with combo orders is I will order the combo and then I will manually input item records into the DVD records.
So what I do is I order when I'm placing the order and make sure I select because it'll come up as a preliminary, not a preliminary, a duplicate when a
Provisional.
provisional. Yeah, so I make sure I select the Blu-ray only, and when that gets sent to Midwest Tape, for example, because that's why I order my combos from because they split it for us. Um, it gets sent back with the number's the same, so I just make sure I have only the Blu-ray selected, and then when it comes in, I create the item record for the DVD at that time. Because I'm not actually ordering it, so I just create a separate, not attached to the PO.
Got it.
Did that answer your question, Nora?
Yeah, for sure. And I just thought it might have bearing on the whole 4K combo thing because those are separated as well. I think what you're saying with just adding 4K or 4K combo
Yeah,
makes sense for the
you wouldn't
workflow.
do a PO for it. You would just automatically just
Yeah.
add your item record into the correct bib. Is there any more questions or concerns regarding this motion? If not, can I move forward with this motion to have a 4K and a 4K combo? In the 245 field with on preliminary data record.
There's a question in the chat. Oh, sorry, Cassie.
I was just gonna say if there was any way for us to see how it would look on the bib record or the item record, this new process we would be doing.
I think there's been like already some bit records out there with 4K. Let me try to see. Right. Let me see. Hold on. If I could find something and then. So Rachel, if you don't mind sharing, if you're able to go into staff client or Leap, there's a Gladiator 2 4K.
Okay, 1 second. In the meantime, Lee, there's another question in the chat on how it would look, whether it should be 4K Blu-ray combo, 4K combo.
I think it should just be 4K and 4K combo because it's obviously 4K is it's a version of Blu-ray, so it doesn't need to be specific. But I would say 4K and 4K combo would be what would be better.
Okay, I found the records and training. So those are still on order records. 1 second. So it looks like this one was mocked up with 4K after it. And there were some more in the results. So this one had Blu-ray and that one had 4K. So it looks like you would still want that to be capital instead of lowercase for 4K, and then 4K combo and capitals. So it would be like 4K, 4K combo.
Yeah. So is there any more questions, concerns regarding this?
Lay, do you need someone to second the motion or?
Yeah, I would like to officially put this into motion that we
Yeah.
put 4K and 4K combo into the 245 preliminary data records. So if I could get,
There was a
Oh.
question if we should also do this for games by platform.
so the
Yeah.
game platform has already been put into motion. That's already was approved. I forgot which meeting it was, the 2020 in 2023 that was put into motion. So anything with PS4, PS5, or Switch, any of the game platform that already should be on the preliminary data records already. So yes, if anyone that's not aware, video games should have that brackets in there with the game platform. So I think I have a motion already, or somebody like call for motion. Someone Brenda seconded, and do I have a first? Is that you, Karen, from Fox River?
Yeah, Karen.
I'll first it, or Karen's the first date. Andy or Karen.
Yeah. So so if everybody just yay for this, then I will say that this motion passed. So I will say, Rachel, this motion passed.
Is
for,
anyone against
for-
the motion?
yeah. I see a lot of yay. So thank you, everyone. So motion passed. So going forward, if anyone that's ordering 4K or 4K combo, so if you could just go ahead and put it in the 245 field. Okay, thank you.
I will add it to the catalogers wiki.
Thank you, Rachel. Okay, I guess we can move on to reminder, Rachel.
Okay, great. So the next reminder is to watch out for the 024 field with a second indicator of 3. I received a report of ISBNs in 024 fields. So these had started with the 978 number, and they noticed it because it had caused a problem when creating a purchase order. The wrong information was added to a PO, and somehow the wrong item was ordered. So if you're ordering things that need to have an 024 in the PO, then just double check and make sure that it doesn't have a 978 in it. If it does, please delete it from your bib records. And double check the PO. I don't think it's happened very often. I just received one report of this happening. So this would be just a case where the wrong number was in the 024. And the next thing on the agenda are demonstrations. So I did receive a request to demonstrate finding and editing item templates in Leap. So I'm going to share my screen. So in Leap, you do have the ability to create item templates. If you open the new drop-down menu, you can click on template and then click on item and create your template here. But you probably don't need to do that very often. So if you need to edit your existing templates, you can click on the Find tool. In the first drop-down menu, you can scroll down to Item Template and search for your item template. So I'll just search for something that has the word on order in it and open it up. So you would just be able to edit your item template as you would normally do, and then press save. So it's fairly easy to use Leap for editing item templates. Does anyone have any questions about item templates in Leap? The next thing on our agenda is deduplicating in Leap, and Molly is going to share her screen and demonstrate how to use Leap for deduplicating because some new functions have been added.
Thank you, Rachel. Let's see. And I'm glad you said something because I did forget that I was going to do that today. I did send you a request just to be able to share.
Yes, there you go.
Okay. One moment. Rachel, can I have just a moment before I start? Since I wasn't quite prepared, I just need to get my Leap opened up and I need just a couple minutes.
While we wait, Rachel, you want to just do the fiscal rollover? That'd be quick. You're on mute.
Yeah, 1 second. I need to get my PowerPoint up. I'm just going to review the slides as I do every year in case there's some new staff that would like to learn more about the fiscal year, because that's coming up for most of the libraries. One moment. So today I'm just going to provide an overview of the fiscal year rollover process. I do review these slides every year at the March meeting in case anyone needs a review, since it's something that only happens once a year. There's also some information that I'll share with you on how to allocate money to your funds in LEAP in case you'd like to play around with LEAP this year. There's also some SQL queries that I will share with you in case you are new to using SQL. So the rollover process transitions the acquisitions module from your current fiscal year to a new fiscal year. It automatically generates a new fiscal year structure identical to that of your current fiscal year and sets your previous fiscal year to a status that will prevent new orders from being placed on it. Depending on the type of rollover you choose, the status of the closed fiscal year will state closed or encumbrances closed. So there are 3 options to choose from for your fiscal year rollover. Run the fiscal year rollover utility and roll over the free balance, which no one actually uses. Run the fiscal year rollover utility and zero out the free balance, or replicate the fiscal year hierarchy. Most libraries choose to zero out the free balance and roll over the encumbrances. Running the fiscal year rollover utility creates a new fiscal year with a fund structure identical to that of the current fiscal year. If the encumbrances are rolled over, the process unlinks certain records connected to uninvoiced POs from the old funds and relinks them to the corresponding funds in the new fiscal year. This includes pending POs, polys, on pending purchase orders, open invoices, and PO templates. So when you choose to roll over the encumbrances, the encumbered amounts are disencumbered in the old fiscal year and rolled over to the new one. This is recorded in the fund history of the fund records. Then the utility closes all funds from the current fiscal year so that they will not be available for future orders. So when running the fiscal year utility and rolling over the encumbrances, there are 2 options to choose from. The free balance can either roll over with the encumbrances or be zeroed out. So all funds start with a $0 balance. So the majority of the libraries do choose to zero out the free balance. I don't know of any libraries that have rolled over their free balance. There are a couple libraries that have chosen to replicate the hierarchy. This creates a new fiscal year with a fund structure identical to that of the current fiscal year, but does not roll over encumbrances or linked records. The beginning free balance is $0. The status is updated to encumbrances closed. In this state, staff can receive and expend purchase order line items that were encumbered prior to the utility being run in the previous fiscal year's records that they were ordered in. Once all outstanding orders have been received and invoiced, we can close the previous fiscal year to all activity. There are a number of tasks that can help you to prepare for the rollover. You can run the outstanding orders report. This helps identify which purchase orders will be rolled over or will remain attached to the previous fiscal year. It is important to release or delete pending purchase orders. You should also pay open invoices so that money is expended from the correct fiscal year, and then apply any credits as well as pay your invoices. You can also ask for us to run the pre-processing report, which I do typically send out in a ticket. This shows the current state of the fund balances to be rolled over. It's also possible to schedule a test rollover in training if you've never done this before and want to play around with allocating your money to the funds in training, but this data will not be current because it's out of date. It is also helpful to review the instructions for correcting the uninvoiced purchase orders. Even when purchase orders are received, they need to be properly linked to an invoice before the fiscal year rollover. If they are not linked to invoices, the purchase orders will roll over to the next fiscal year. In order to catch these orders that have not been properly linked to invoices, there are a number of queries that you can use in the purchase order line item find tool in the client or the find tool in Leap. You can run a saved SQL query called received poly is not invoiced. For the purchase orders find tool, it's called POs not canceled or closed. In the purchase orders find tools, there's also one called POs not invoiced. And in the invoices find tool, there's invoices not paid or closed. So I'll show you where that is in a second. So on the day of your rollover, CCS staff will be the ones completing the rollover for you. It will happen early in the morning before 7 a.m. We can also schedule it for after 9 p.m. if you'd like. This is done so that no one will be using the database. We do send an email to the acquisitions lister to let everyone know about the upcoming rollover and send an all clear message when it's safe to resume using the acquisitions module. CCS staff will rename your new fiscal year and update your reports to the new fiscal year if you have any scheduled reports, but library staff do need to be the ones to allocate the dollars to the funds. At this time, you can change names of funds if you'd like. If you replicate the hierarchy, you will be able to delete the new funds, but delete any funds if you do not want to use them. You will be able to delete funds if you do not want to use them if you replicate the hierarchy. If you have funds you do not want to use and you choose to roll over the encumbrances, you cannot delete the funds at that time. You just need to mark them as do not use and not allocate the money to those funds. After another year goes by, if you do not allocate any money to the funds and do not have any POs linked to it anymore, you will be able to delete that in the next fiscal year. So I will send out the slides for you. There are some links to resources in them. One second while I switch my screen. So I do want to show you some things in Leap for a second. I don't have the client open yet, so I'm not going to bring that up right now. But I do want to point out where you'll find SQL queries in Leap. So under purchase orders, in the second drop down, you will choose SQL search. You would just have to select the SQL search mode in the client if you do that. And under unsaved, you will find in the saved search drop-down menu, you will find the saved SQL queries, POs not canceled or closed, or purchase orders not invoiced. You'll find some in also if you search for polys and invoices. If you click this little arrow pointing down, you will be able to edit the query. The only thing you need to change is this destination org ID for your library's number. So this will be in all of the different saved queries, whether they're in Leap or in the client. Some of them say organization ID, so they will have some different words here for ID. It should be the last line though. You'll see a number here that needs to be changed for your library. If you don't know your number, you can find it on the CCS website. So looks like I need to log in to find it. 1 second. I do have this bookmarked. So on a page called Technical Services Information, you'll find your library's name and a Polaris branch code. You can use that in place of the existing number. Oops. One other thing I want to briefly demonstrate, since we do have some libraries using Leap now, is how to allocate the money to the funds once the rollover has happened. So I'm going to briefly bring up a fiscal year. And I have made a test fiscal year in Leap and rolled it over because I know Waukegan's is coming up soon. If you click on funds, you'll see a list of all your funds. To allocate the money to the funds, you would click on your fund and then open the Actions drop-down menu and press Adjust Fund Balances. It will default to Assign Beginning Allocation, and you can type in your amount and press Update Fund. It's fairly simple to do in Leap. If any of you are wanting to play around with Leap, feel free to try to allocate all your money to your funds in Leap. I do also recommend checking the Balances tab. This is where you'll find your limits. The limits do actually roll over from previous fiscal years. So you can see I allocated $5,000, but the previous one was $6,740. Feel free to change that if you want to. Unfortunately, there's no multi-fund editor yet in Leap. That's only in the client. But feel free to play around with Leap if you want. Does anyone have any questions about the fiscal year rollover?
How does the timing of it work with, like you said, Waukegan's coming up soon? Like what range of time do people do it in usually in relation to the actual end of their fiscal year?
It varies depending on library. Some like to do it before the fiscal year rollover up to like a week. And some do it after and might wait for like until they receive some more items before doing the rollover. So it could happen 7 to 10 days after. So it's really up to you, depending on when you want to stop ordering, when you want to, if you want to wait for orders to arrive later.
Oh, thank you.
Is there any other questions? All right, let's move on to the next demonstration.
Thank you. Sorry about that, Rachel.
That's okay.
Okay, so I am sharing my screen. you should be seeing a Leap screen. I've got Dogman and Cat Kid open. And so what I'm going to do is first, I'm going to in Leap, so I've opened a bibliographic record. I want to do a duplicate check. And so now under the actions section, there's the duplicate check that we can do here. So it's going to open up and let me know if I have any duplicates that I might need to look into. And before I go to that record, you can also see there's an add titles. So if for some reason you know that there's another title that should be coming up as a duplicate, you can click add titles. That will open the find tool, and then you can add that title to it. So if I wanted to look at this record and see what's going on with it, I do need to copy the control number, which is usually with open the other bid records. So I'll grab that control number, and then I'm going to go ahead and close this. So now I'm back here. I will go ahead and cancel. I don't want to replace anything. I want to do a quick comparison. So in the action section, I can go back, and now there is a compare function here. When I click compare, I will go ahead and put in my control number that I just grabbed, and I will open up my other record. So now it's going to give me the two records side by side. My original record is going to stay as the control record. That's what the one on the left-hand side is called. And then my compare record, which they call the compare record, is here. And just as an aside, you can have up to 19 records showing at the same time, and you can flip between them. You can also add additional records by clicking the little plus sign. But what's nice in here is if you're thinking about merging or deleting records, you can go through and look at the different fields. So if I'm in here and I see that there's a 490 field here with a volume number in it that's not existing in this record, I can actually move fields across by clicking, and it'll take one from side to side. So once I decide what I want to do with this record, if I wanted to save it, I could save it here. You can also realign your tags if you're moving tags back and forth. I'm going to close this again. It will ask me if I want to do any changes or if I want to discard my changes. And then again, if I want to go back, and this is a duplicate check again, if I decided that this record that I have currently can be replaced by this Dogman and Kid up here, I would click this and then click replace. And then that would give me the option to replace that record to cut down on our duplications. So it's pretty quick. Are there any questions? I just have to say, I think I've probably said it a million times, I love the compare work form. I love that we can do this side by side. And I know that Rachel and I have talked about putting in from the duplicate check, going directly into the compare work form instead of having to do the copy and paste as a MEP. And so hopefully that can be something that can come in a future release.
Thank you, Molly, for showing that, and Rachel for doing the fiscal rollover. So the next thing I have on our agenda is a presentation from Heather and Karen, avoiding unauthorized version of movies and television on DVDs. So I'll hand it over to you two.
All right, thank you. Hi, I'm Heather Campbell. I'm borrowing a laptop, so my camera's a little bit awkward, but I'm going to be sharing my screen. Unfortunately, my colleague Karen was not able to be here with us today, but I'm going to do the presentation. I have her notes. So if I can share my screen here. Do I want to share my entire screen? Is that what I'm doing?
That should be fine.
Okay. Okay, let's go to, I'm going to do, okay. Now I am Heather Campbell. I'm the cataloger at Lake Villa Library. And so we've got a presentation for you on avoiding unauthorized versions of movies and television on DVD. And this is kind of a revamped version of a presentation that we had given about 2 years ago to the catalogers. And so I'm coming from the perspective of a cataloger, and Karen is our one of our adult services librarians who is a selector for our television and movies. So this topic came up just before the pandemic. Patrons were requesting TV shows that we were unable to find through our regular vendors, being Midwest Tape and Baker and Taylor. So our first slide here, one of our revamped slides. So we've got a lot of information on TVs and movies on Google. So we can see here, we have information on release date and also what our watch options are. We also can get a lot of information from Wikipedia, particularly on the home media release dates. As we see here, Wicked is released going to be March 21st on Peacock. Also for television series, which is going to be our more problematic genre, Google still has a lot of useful information. We can see that there are 4 seasons of Stranger Things that were produced. And then we also can see if the show is in production, what the originating platform or network is. And now Wikipedia, again, we're going to look at our home media release information. And then we can see here that, we've got information for season 1 and 2 was released exclusively at Target, but there's no mention of season 3 or 4 release. Let's see. So that probably means that there's no authorized versions available of Stranger Things season 3 or 4, and neither of our vendors, Baker and Taylor or Midwest Tape, carry any of the seasons because, as we said, it was available only through Target for seasons 1 and 2. So our first deep dive into unauthorized DVDs came with the series Grace and Frankie. Karen did a lot of research into this because patrons were asking for the later seasons. There's 7 seasons, and season 1 and 2 were released in a timely manner, 2016, 2017. But Karen wasn't able to find them for sale through our vendors. And there are, no mentions of season 3 through 7. But we do have some records in Polaris for some of the later seasons. But we'll notice that there are some unusual things about these records. As you see here, we've searched by the UPC number for season 2, and that brings up also season 3 and season 4, which means that those 2 seasons have the incorrect UPC on the item. Now we look in Baker and Taylor at these search results, and we see that they only have 2 items found when you search for Gracie and Frankie. And now this on Midwest tape. This screenshot is from 2 years ago. They only had seasons 1 and 2 available, but now Karen had just searched recently, and neither of those seasons is available from Midwest tape. Looking at Amazon, Amazon sells everything, including counterfeits. We do use it on occasion here at Lake Villa. But if you notice, this is a complete series, seasons 1 through 6 set. But it's sold, you can see here, it ships from Amazon, but it's sold by a third party. If we look at this website, new DVD release dates, they list, it's a resource to find release dates for items, and they still only list 2 seasons as being released. And as you can see here in this box where it says DVD rental, if there isn't a date there, it's bad news for us. This website, DVDsReleaseDates.com, also only lists 2 seasons of Gracie and Frankie as being available. So another issue that we've come across is that long-running TV shows that patrons like, so Grey's Anatomy has been around for 21 seasons. They're not always available, all seasons on DVD. So currently it's on ABC, the broadcast network, but after the episodes air, they go to stream on Hulu and are not released on DVD anymore. And this becomes a problem for patrons and selectors. So we have some Wikipedia information here for Grey's Anatomy. As you can see, in Region 1, which is where we are, North America, only seasons 1 through 13 have been released on DVD, and not any of the more recent seasons. And another example would be This Is Us, which ran for 6 seasons, but only 5 seasons have been released on DVD. So back to our Amazon listings. So when we were looking at Gracie and Frankie and Stranger Things that were available on Netflix, we found this image that was with one of the items. And if you look closely, you can see that in this artwork on the disc label, there's a typo. Instead of season 1, it says C1. So that can kind of give us a tip off that maybe it's not a high quality authorized version. But in today's day and age, it's becoming harder to tell what items are actually authorized and what items are counterfeit or bootleg. So this video I found, one of these versions of WKRP in Cincinnati is an authorized version, and one is a counterfeit version. And it's really hard to tell just by looking at it because counterfeiters have become really sophisticated with packaging and all their artwork. But one of the telltale things that we can see if a DVD or a Blu-ray is counterfeit is in the data storage. So if you flip over the disc, you'll see we've got here dual layer discs and single layer discs. So as you can see, the dual layer disc, there should be 2 barcodes and item numbers. There's one for each layer. So each layer is a layer of data that gives you higher image quality. And a single layer disc will only have one barcode and one item number around that center ring. It does get a little bit, it's not a foolproof system because I was checking some of the items that came in that I was cataloging recently, and there's also print on demand items that come in, and those don't have those barcodes around the inside. But this is a good tip if you're looking to see. Another tip is DVDs and Blu-rays from the United States generally have FBI anti-piracy warnings. So you can actually, if you view the video, those should be present. With the arrival of multiple streaming platforms and then the pandemic disrupting the economy, how we engage with home entertainment has changed, and we're still feeling the effects. Some films are only released to DVD or Blu-ray, but not both. And now we were talking about 4K earlier. Some television series are being released exclusively to 4K and not DVD or Blu-ray. Some production studios aren't releasing items after it's been listed with the vendor already. Those things are getting canceled. And streaming platforms that have original content are not necessarily releasing things to disc. It's just available through streaming. Some examples of that are like Netflix's The Crown is available on Blu-ray and DVD, but not Bridgerton. Amazon Prime has Jack Ryan on disc, but not The Marvelous Mrs. Maisel. Apple's Ted Lasso and Severance are not available on disc, and a lot of Disney television series are only available on streaming, not on disc. And some things that tech service staff can look for when you do get items in, other than looking at the underside of the disc. That video I showed comparing the two seasons or the two sets of WKRP in Cincinnati, he did say that the unauthorized copy had more flimsy cases and the plastic was lesser quality than the authorized version. When we get an authorized DVD, it'll have that plastic sticker seal on the case inside the shrink wrap, and often the shrink wrap will be stamped made in Mexico, which is a good hint that it is an authorized version. Also, like with the Gracie and Frankie later seasons, it might reuse a UPC from an earlier authorized release, or there might be no search results for that UPC. We can also see if there's a lack of records for the item in CCS and WorldCat. It's probably not an authorized version because everybody would probably own it already. Poor quality labels like we saw on Amazon, and then the poor image quality on a single layer disc when you view it are some giveaways. And again, that FBI anti-piracy warning. So if you have any questions, I hope this was helpful for you. You can email me, you can email Karen, and then also when we originally put this together, we did pick the brain of Kit Moore at Crystal Lake. He knows a lot about AV. So if you have any questions, please feel free to contact us. Right now, I'll stop sharing my screen. Okay.
Did anyone have any question for Heather then regarding this? I certainly learned something. That was that was fascinating for me. So that
Thank
was
you.
interesting. I will definitely look at the back of the disc for
Yeah.
for the fake versus the real thing. But yeah, oh my God. Thank you so much for that
Sure, thanks
presentation.
for having me.
Was there, before I adjourn the meeting, was there anything else that anybody else has any question regarding these what we discussed this in this meeting? If not, Rachel, if I could just request when you sent out if you could resend out that wiki link regarding the game platform, and once you also get the motion that was passed today onto the wiki, if you could also send that together with it.
Yes.
Okay, great. Cassie
There's a
said
comment
something.
in the chat.
Yeah. Okay.
The website Blu-ray.com serves as a comprehensive and reliable database for virtually every movie and TV show released on physical media. Thank you for sharing that, Cassie.
Thanks, Cassie. If there is no more comments or concern, I will call for a motion to end this meeting. Thank you, everyone, for attending. So if I could get a motion?
I'll move. Nora from
Okay.
Prospect Heights.
Yes. And a second one, please.
I'll second.
Cassie.
Great. Thank you, everyone. I apologize. It was a 2-hour meeting, but I think we had gotten a lot of information out of this. And I look forward to seeing everyone in the next meeting in September. So it's been fun chairing this committee. Thank you, everyone. Have a great week.
Thanks. Bye-bye.
Thank you. Bye-bye.